Good day and welcome to the VMS Software Professional Services webinar. My name is Terry Holmes. I'm responsible for sales for VSI. On a global basis, we are delighted that you could attend this professional services webinar, especially during these interesting times that we live in. I will tell you that everyone who is on today's webinar from VSI, and I'm sure most of you who are attending, are working from home as we are as well. So if you hear a dog bark or something else that you might not normally hear on one of these webinars, well, we're just at home and doing our thing, as I'm sure you are. So thank you very much for joining. Today's agenda will again be primarily after a few opening remarks. I'm going to turn the time over to two of our professional services professionals, Dave Sullivan and Brett Cameron, for their presentations, and then there should be plenty of time for questions and answers. So I want you to know that we have a very robust number of people attending today. It's terrific, and again, just shows the level of excitement and interest in VSI and what we're doing to this valued OpenVMS platform. So we're grateful for your attendance and look forward to your participation. So let's go ahead and get started. So I was asked to say a few things about VMS software first of all. As many of you know, we were formed in 2014 as a result of our parent company, TerraCloud Luxembourg, purchasing from HP at the time in 2014 all the rights to OpenVMS operating system. We are headquartered in Bolton, Massachusetts. Today we have approximately 90 employees, plus we have approximately a number of 40 to 45 additional contractors. So if you would have attended one of our webinars a year ago or 2 years ago when we began these series of webinars, you would see and notice that this is a fairly significant growth in terms of the number of people who are engaged with our company. The majority of these folks, well, I was going to say work in Bolton, Massachusetts, but not today and not for some time probably to come. But our headquarters are in Bolton, Massachusetts, with offices in Malmo, Sweden, and with locations in the Netherlands and France and Germany, UK, Copenhagen, Denmark, and elsewhere in North America. Now, our parent company, TerraCloud, is adding additional offices on a worldwide basis. They have subsidiaries in various European countries. I know that there are other activity to set up additional subsidiaries outside of Europe as well. So we're very excited about that because of the additional resources that can bring to VMS software, and more importantly to you, our customers and our partners. The vast majority of our employees and consultants are indeed working on the x86 project, which I'm sure most of you have heard of and are probably fairly familiar with. Our strategy at the beginning, back in 2014, remains along the same lines, and that is to be a VMS clearinghouse for all possible solutions to provide OpenVMS customers and partners. Whether it's the development of new licenses, along with our support team, where we've developed 5, including the Japanese versions, 6 new licenses, or whether it has to do with offering interim cloud solutions, working with emulation companies, providing training, or the focus of today's webinar, professional services. Our goal has been and remains to be an all catch-all for solutions for OpenVMS customers. In the future, you will see us talking about some additional areas that we're looking at, even beyond the x86 product. which is due out in early 2022, version 9.2. We are already, of course, thinking ahead and looking at the future beyond that. And so we're going to be talking about some other exciting things that will come down the road in future webinars. Just a very brief business update. There are some significant changes coming for OpenVMS users. First, the last HPE version 8.4 standard support ends at the end of this year. And with the acquisition that VSI made of all OpenVMS support contracts, HPE support contracts, whether the customer has been using HPE version or VSI version, now that we own the rights to all those renewals, we are encouraging customers to take a look at their options that are afforded to them, whether it's to remain on version 8.4, certainly through the end of this year and beyond, where they would have a prior version status or MPS support, or to take the opportunity to upgrade to VSI licenses for the obvious reasons. Another important factor that's coming into play is the end of sales by HPE of their i6 Titanium servers, which are also scheduled to end at the end of this calendar year, as well as some other changes that are happening. So if you or one of your clients may have interest in this area, please be aware of it, and please do not hesitate to reach out to us at VSI. We've also introduced a new subscription model, which is new to us, but one of the reasons why we have done this is twofold. One, it has to relate to the first topic of all the changes going on, and is a means to allow those 8.4 users to more easily move into a VSI upgraded version, 8.4-2L1, to gain the benefits of full standard support on those licenses. Also, there's some advantages in terms of looking to expend in purchasing. The funds typically for subscription are looked at as OPEX, operational expenses, as opposed to capital expenses. So there are many advantages for organizations in going that route. So we want to make this transition for you as easy as possible. Again, work with your VSI account manager in this vein. Fortunately, I can report to you that we have been growing, both from a top-line revenue standpoint, and also that means that we've been able to add additional engineering and development, and even a little sales and marketing talent, but primarily in the engineering and developer talent mode. This is important for obvious reasons. It's important that we stick as closely to our roadmap for x86 as possible, but along the way, make sure we're adding in those components today for even version 8.4-2L1 that you need, which we are continuing to do, as well as putting in the components, the products that you need for the x86. As you are probably aware from last month's webinar, as well as just hearing about it, Claire Grant gave an in-depth review of where we were with our version 9.0 on x86 in terms of introducing that early adopter kit into the market and rolling it out. The other thing we're quite excited about, and we know that there are many users out there that are quite excited, is our new community licensing program, which is scheduled to start in the fall. I was in a meeting yesterday and heard that it may actually be ready to go a bit earlier than that. So please watch for that and watch for those announcements. You would probably be receiving an email, as well as something will go up on our website. So thank you for allowing me a couple of minutes to give you that business update. Now I'd like to turn the time over to a couple of individuals who are intimately involved in our professional services business. First of all, Mr. Dave Sullivan. Dave is our professional services manager for North America. He's been on board with VSI for just about 1 year now, and we're delighted to have him. Dave has significant OpenVMS experience and overall IT experience. including an excellent history of working at Digital, Compact, and HP/HPE, primarily as a technology solutions consultant. As part of this presentation, Dr. Brett Cameron, our Chief Solutions Officer, will also be participating. Brett is a member of the senior management of VSI, and one of his main responsibilities is driving the strategy for application services and for open source. He brings nearly 30 years of experience in technology, again, part of that with HPE, part of that with the University of Canterbury, and now, fortunately, with VSI. So we're delighted to have both Dave and Brett here. So with that, I'd like to turn over the time, I believe, first to Dave Sullivan to go through the presentations. Dave, over to you.
Okay, wonderful, Terry. Thank you very much. Yeah, I definitely see some names I've seen from before out here on the list, and glad to have everybody. And we're certainly looking forward to getting the presentation rolling here. With our agenda for today, I really want to try to make sure that our customer base and the folks out there are aware of all of the things that we have to offer as a company outside of just standard OpenVMS support. I'm going to speak to a number of slides here that will let you know what our capabilities are, more so in the system and operating system area and managed service space. And then I'm going to turn it over to Brett, who will talk about the applications and application options that we have out there. So we have VSI, the professional services. We have some application services. We do managed services, and we do a lot of time and materials engagements for customers. And we also want to make sure that you are aware that we can be your leverage when we need it. So I'm going to move into that sort of presentation here, and Terry, I'll just say okay, and we'll roll into that. So what is VSI Professional Services, right? What do we do, right? We are the custodians of the OpenVMS operating system and many of its layered products. We know the operating system and the products because we license, develop, engineer, and distribute them. So we have intimate knowledge of the product and the applications. Now, our professional services staff can engage when we go beyond contracted levels of support, or you just need extra help. We can leverage expertise and skills of our engineers in any product set from every facet of the company to provide you with the best possible solutions. And we at VSI Professional Services, we're here to be part of your team. We want to provide you with the services you need to achieve your business goals. So what that means is that our goal here is to use our presence in this arena to make things go as smooth as we can when you reach a point where you need extra help. We want you to know that we're here and that we can provide services that are well outside of the box of standard OpenVMS support. Okay, we have a little eye chart here. Most of my presentations at some point will have an eye chart. This is just a list of the Itanium layered products and open source products. And I thought I would put this slide out here so that we can understand how many different products are actually out there and how many open source products and levels and versions of these products that are out. VSI, if you've been watching, has recently released some new Java products, and there's some open products that have come out as well, and Brett can talk about those. But I figured with this eye chart here, VMS isn't just the operating system. It's everything that makes the operating system work for your company. So we just wanted to put this out here so you could just see the immense amount of products out here that we have the capability of working with and resolving issues for, and helping to better engineer your future on OpenVMS. Okay. So what can VSI do for you? Well, we can see here we have many options in our consulting breadth. We have standard and competitive T&M rates that you can engage us as needed for a lot of one-off type of things where you just need some help with a particular job. We have application services. So whether you're having issues with existing applications, seeking other applications, or looking for a better way to integrate existing applications in your environment, with the services of Brett Cameron and his team, there are many, many options that could be available to customers that they may not be aware of. So we're basically saying, don't be afraid to, give us a call and at least get us in for a conversation if you're looking for ways to, stay and actually run better on OpenVMS. That's what our goal is. We also offer managed services. We have many tiers of managed services that we can do anything from augment your staff all the way to run and manage your systems. As we have found out through, and this has been requested through many of our customers to start looking and providing extra resources, especially with some of the new versions coming out and some of the new upgrades and things like that, that they're seeking our expertise to assist them in. And we want to make sure that everyone is aware that we have that expertise available here and that we can engage to make your life easier. We also offer some discovery services. We developed this discovery protocol and creation of a run book. So we found that a lot of customers have changed hands or changed folks. And if you find yourself in a position where you've inherited some VMS systems or just trying to understand the scope of your environment, we've developed a tool set that can go in and read through your environment and come up with a run book of items that will explain how your clusters or systems are running, what's on them, versions, etc., and then overlook those for best practices to see how things are sitting. So sometimes when you inherit some of these machines, you just don't know what you have, and you may be at a little loss as to figure out every facet of it. So the discovery services have been very popular with customers in that particular position. So we have definitely available in that area. Now, consulting services, we have a lot, okay? And we basically kind of have a little chart here. And we do the standard operating system upgrades, we layered product upgrades, new system and operating system installations and configurations. We can configure your internal RAID storage. We also offer, and this is interesting too, a non-contract support, right? So, in the past, HPE had revamped their items so that you would not be able to get any service at all unless you have a contract. But we do have some options available that if you don't have a contract at all and you kind of call us out of the blue, there will be some paperwork and some things and some fees that happen, but we would be able to assist. So if you found yourself in a non-contracted state, we can certainly offer that. And we can do migrations from HPE versions to VSI versions, and we have migrations from old hardware to new hardware. And on Brett's side, application investigation, tuning, and modernization. Brett recently came off a job where he modernized an application for a particular customer and saved them an awful lot of time and aggravation. So there's a lot of services that we have now under our umbrella. And we just, as I said, want to make you all aware of what we have. Next slide. So in the managed services space, we've come up with, no one size fits all, and nothing, is cast in stone. But we've come up with three scenarios here that customers seem to fall under as far as categories, just to get an idea of how things are running, right? And let me just say, in the managed services space, I mean, this is something that we're doing, and we also have partners that we engage as well. As Terry said in the earlier part of the presentation, that we do want to be a clearinghouse for everything VMS. That doesn't necessarily mean that we have the capabilities to handle everything VMS. We have quite a bit of capability here, but there are times when we need to go engage a partner and we do on many occasions, in anything from a managed services to a system move. Sometimes it's localization that we might need somebody more local or more hands-on, in a particular activity. So this is work that we do, and occasionally we will engage a partner if we need to too. So when you kind of think of what we can do in that clearinghouse spec, I mean, we have access to partners and we have access to people, that work in this business, and this is their life as well as ours. So we do have a lot of folks available in that. So in the managed services light area, this is basically for customers that just need, a level 2 resource on demand. It can help augment your staff. You can have a L2 support engineer assist you with anything from problem resolution to questions about best practices. These can be sold in 10-hour per month increments. It eliminates delays in paperwork. We don't basically provide any monthly reporting with this particular service. We have a few customers that are running this now, and what it gives them is it gives them access to an expert when they need it. They don't need it all the time, but they want to be able to call an expert when they're having problems or questions that. And these again are services that are over and above the standard OpenVMS support contracts. These would be system management tasks, or things that a standard system manager would do. And we've found that a lot of customers today have system managers that came over from Unix or Linux, and they're very good. They just sometimes need a little extra help. And that's where the managed services light has come from. So the next one, and the next slide, we have a second tier of managed services, which kind of picks up where the other one leaves off. This tier is, designed to enhance your staff, provide tools and services to monitor and maintain your daily operations. You'll have direct access to an OpenVMS expert in the areas that you need. In this solution, we can work with your team to determine what's important to your company and provide monitoring of activities to meet your needs. Monitoring is fully automated using some VSI proprietary tool sets that Brett will get into and discuss as well. And then with the information we can gather from your machines, we can find problems before they occur. We can, validate best practices, make sure all your system files are all in the right shape and edited properly, and kind of get everything really streamlined and be, a company that will be right beside you in providing quarterly reports in this particular category, that will time track your activity as well as system performance and things like that. So that's our tier 2. And the next slide is pretty much, we're going to do everything for you. This tier is basically, everything under the sun. We're going to manage your machines, straightforward. We'll be your system manager. We'll work with your stakeholders. We can be in those meetings. We can provide direction and advise you advantages of modernization in streamlining applications to keep your OpenVMS environment moving forward. So that is a monthly reporting tier. That is a nice little report that comes out with full management credentials in it. Okay, and the next slide here, we're going to get into the application services of OpenVMS, and I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Brett Cameron, and he's going to explain to you all the services that VSI has in these areas. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dave. And can you hear me okay, Dave?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so look, thanks for that background, Dave. I mean, just to reiterate there before I get into application services, like Dave said, we're looking at providing the range of services that we're talking about here today. But just to reiterate, we can't do everything, and we do rely on an extensive network of partners. And we can't do this alone. We can't help all our customers solve all their problems alone. And we're very pleased with the network of partners that we have to call on to help us with particular situations. In terms of application services, I guess this is an area that I've been involved with one way or another for probably the best part of my career. I started with digital back in 1992, but I would say probably just about from day one way or another, I was involved in the application services space. And I probably met many of you over the years in various locations around the planet where I've worked with various colleagues to help customers solve specific application-related problems. And in general terms, those problems kind of fall into the categories that we've listed on the slide here, where we've got customers who are looking for help around integration or just more general application modernization, or the other things we've got here, application maintenance and support, or just some kind of review. We've got this application, we really don't know what we should be doing with it. You know, please come in and help us, give us some guidance. So I'll step through each of these in turn and then move on to some other bits and pieces that we've been working on that Dave has alluded to. So integration is something that really, sorry, Terry, no, go back. Integration is something that pops up literally all the time, where I've spent, I don't know how much time working with customers who need to integrate the legacy OpenVMS application environments with new applications or whatever in their enterprise. You tend to find that many environments where OpenVMS is used, they're heterogeneous computing environments. So you don't only have OpenVMS, you have Linux systems, Windows, maybe you have mainframes and who knows what else. Many of our customers are a conglomeration of acquisitions and mergers. And one way or another, they've inherited a disparate array of different operating systems and so forth. And for whatever reason, they need to integrate things. So this, as I say, is something that comes up literally all the time where customers need help figuring out ways to integrate their custom written application code with other systems. And we can help at multiple levels with regards to this particular area, be it through recommendations of products all the way through to architecting solutions and even helping you to implement those solutions. Some of the more common things that come up here are probably introduction of web services, for example. Message queuing is probably the other prime example of an integration service that pops up. But all of these situations, as you go from customer to customer, they're different. They're all unique solutions in one way or another. There are certainly some common themes, but it's important to sit down with the customer and look at the particular problem they're trying to solve and craft an appropriate solution. Application modernization is obviously a more general kind of thing where customers have maybe got some OpenVMS-based custom application that's been around for possibly 30 or more years. And those applications continue to serve the business very, very well and are probably critical to your business. But for whatever reason, maybe you need to update them in some way, and that could be integration, which I just talked about. It could be through maybe changing to an alternative database platform, possibly that's desirable. It could be just something like replacing an existing green screen user interface with a web-based or modern graphical user interface or something like that. These are things that customers do come to us with, problems that they're trying to solve. And again, there's a lot that we can do here, but you know, it's not something where you can say, look, you know, here's a solution off the shelf. You really have to sit down and talk about things and solve the problems on a case-by-case basis by looking at what the customer is trying to achieve and crafting the most appropriate solution. But these are things that we can help you with. Application maintenance and support, that's quite a biggie. What we're talking about there, and some of you will know me from when I used to live in Christchurch, New Zealand, and the team I worked with HP and Compaq and Digital down there used to provide these services. Essentially what we're talking about there is the situation where we as an organization essentially take over the application maintenance and support of your custom written application code. Now, there may be multiple reasons why you would want to do this. Possibly your developers have retired. Like I said, many of these custom applications are very old. Possibly you're struggling to find resources to look after that code. There could be a number of other reasons. Possibly you're not happy with your incumbent application maintenance and support provider. And I would like to think that possibly you would be happier with us. So we can work with you to provide those sorts of services. Now, I would note that there are some constraints with regards to application maintenance and support. As Terry said, we have people all around the globe. We have teams all around the globe. And you can get into different issues if you've got a customer in one geography and maybe you need to do the application maintenance and support from another geography. There might be data sovereignty issues or other such matters. But in general, these sorts of things can be worked around. Certainly within the European Union, it's easier, or in the United States specifically, it's easier. But there can be some cases where, for example, we may not be able to help you as we would like here. But we can certainly explore the options. In terms of application review services, I suppose that's relatively self-explanatory. And like I said a few minutes ago, what that's really about is you've got some application that you've maybe had for 30 plus years. What should we do with it? It seems to serve the business well. We're having some issues integrating it or having problems maintaining and supporting it. We really don't know what to do. Should we rewrite this thing? Should we port it to another platform? Should we replace it with a package? I mean, these are pretty important decisions, and often they're big ticket items from a monetary perspective. Rewriting applications can be horrendously expensive. If you have a look at that 20 or 30-year-old application and you add up over the years how many person hours of time you have invested as an organization into that application, it will run into tens of millions of dollars or euros or whatever your preferred currency is, but it's going to be a large number. So, if you're looking at your application and you're saying, what am I going to do with this going forward? You really do want to make the right decision, because you don't suddenly want to find yourself a multi-million-dollar red project. And we can provide services there to give you guidance. And look, I would say that, I'll be quite upfront about it. Whilst I obviously work for VMS Software Incorporated and we have a vested interest in you, the customer, staying with OpenVMS, if the best solution for you is not to do that, then obviously we'll be sad, but we want to give you quality advice and we want to make sure that your business is successful. So, if you need our help, we're there. And as I say, we can give you non-biased guidance in these areas. Okay, thank you, Terry. Move forward. So this is something really that Dave alluded to, I think, during his talk. WebUI is a tool that we've been working on for a little while now, and it's a software product that kind of started with a vision that I had maybe a couple of years ago, particularly in line with the fact that as we get OpenVMS on x86 and we're going to have customers running the operating system virtualized, we're going to have customers running it in a cloud environment and so forth. Potentially, we need better ways for customers to be able to interact with their OpenVMS environments, or potentially we need better ways for us to provide the sorts of services that Dave has talked about in terms of interacting with those customer OpenVMS environments. So I had this vision for this thing called WebUI, which at a simple level is essentially a web-based interface to some number of facilities on the OpenVMS operating system. And it's still evolving somewhat. At the moment, we're kind of aiming for an initial release, probably sometime in July. But I think before we make it available to customers, there are a few things we need to do. Firstly, I would really like our support team to have an opportunity to use the product in-house and tease out any issues and make sure they're happy with it, because they're the guys in the firing line, of course, if you, our customers, find problems with software that we provide. Once Dave's support team have done that, then we will look to make the product available. We're also working through the commercial details associated with this software, and I won't really talk about that. That's a discussion that I need to have with Terry and with the rest of the senior management team, just to see how we want to price this software or whatever we want to do in that regard. But as I say, we're hoping to have a version of this available for customers to use, alpha and integrity, probably, I would say, maybe towards the end of July or sometime in August. the version 1 product is, the code is almost frozen at this stage, and we're kind of going through a testing cycle. So I think that kind of time frame will certainly be achievable. But what I should also add here is that whilst I just described the WebUI as looking at it simplistically as a web-based interface to certain OpenVMS functions, it goes a lot further than that. The way in which that interface is implemented is in a RESTful fashion. Now, I won't bore you with the technical details. Essentially, these are specially formatted HTTP requests, and you get back little bits of JSON formatted messages and so forth. But what this means is that the browser-based interface, and I think there are some pictures coming up, the browser-based interface is just one way that you can interact with the WebUI backend. You can write little scripts in Python, for example, or other scripting languages, and you can run those scripts on Windows or Linux or wherever you like to interact with the WebUI. So as a hypothetical example, you could have a little Python script that added a user to sysuaf, that deleted a user, changed a user's characteristics, return some data on a particular process that's running on the system. Whatever function you might want to perform, you can do it programmatically just as you can through the browser-based user interface. So Terry, if we move on to the next slide, we'll just see some screenshots of the WebUI. There's plenty of these screens, and it's kind of a framework from the browser perspective that can evolve over time, and we can add new functions and plugins and things like that. So the two screenshots that Dave's listed here look like the basic overview page, which I suppose looks a little bit like monitor system, and a list of processes or whatever, and you can look at details on those processes. There's hypertext links all over the place to allow you to do things. The main functions that are in there, let me think, is obviously users, user management, processes, batch queues, storage, rights identifiers, system parameters, and probably one or two others that I've forgotten. Oh yes, probably the other important one is integration with PERFDAT, which we'll talk about fairly soon. So you can actually look at performance data and so forth on your systems using this interface. It's coming along quite nicely. I must admit our web page designer has decided that we need to revamp the web pages because he's come up with something which he considers more aesthetically appealing. And I said, well, that's great, but we're going to do a release in July, so we'll probably modify the look and feel a little bit for a subsequent release. But it is shaping up to be quite a nice little piece of software. Okay, thank you, Terry. Next slide. So I mentioned PERFDAT as something that can be used in conjunction with the WebUI to look at the performance of your systems. Now, PERFDAT is a piece of software that we acquired from HP, probably 2.5 years ago, maybe. And PERFDAT is essentially a performance monitoring tool. It runs in real time on your system. This is kind of distinct, I suppose, from PERFDAT, from T4, which obviously runs in real time but creates CSV files. PERFDAT can give you essentially a real-time view of how your system is performing up to the minute or whatever granularity you're looking at. When we acquired PERFDAT from HPE, one of the things we noticed was that the graphical user interface was written in Visual Basic 6, which is no longer really supported by Microsoft. So we decided that we would rework that user interface into a browser-based user interface, and we've incorporated that, as I say, as a plugin into the WebUI framework. So from within the WebUI, you can hook into PERFDAT and you can pull up performance graphs and look at all sorts of metrics, literally hundreds of performance metrics. However, PERFDAT goes a bit further than just performance metrics and so forth. Whilst it is essentially a piece of software for gathering data, essentially time series metrics, you can put alerts on any of those metrics. Anything PERFDAT can monitor, you can put an alert on it. So, for example, you could put a threshold on 90% disk space usage on a particular disk. If you hit that 90% threshold, PERFDAT can issue an alert to whatever your incident management system might be. Now, when I say whatever your incident management system might be, that's kind of a bit vague and generic. and it may be that some customization is required in order to hook into your specific incident management system. But generally speaking, that's not a big deal. PERFDAT is very flexible in that regard. Using the information that PERFDAT can gather from a performance perspective, obviously this is great from identifying performance bottlenecks on the system. It's great from in terms of things like benchmarking and capacity planning and so forth. All of these things I'm sure you're familiar with. Many of you use T4. Just to note there also that PERFDAT is actually available on pretty much all versions of OpenVMS, for Alpha going back to 7.2-2 and for Itanium going back to 8.2. And needless to say, we will be carrying it forward onto x86. Next slide, please, Terry. So I think that's really about all from me. I'm not sure how we quite want to wrap up. I might let Terry say a few words there in a moment to just wrap things up, and then we can take some questions. But I think hopefully what you've taken from the webinar, from what David said, what I've said, is that VMS Software Inc. is able to provide a range of services. We're able to help you with a lot of different things around application services, managed services, installations, migrations, all of these things. And we're growing that capability for sure. But as I said, we also look to leverage our partner network to assist us with many of these functions. Okay, so look, I'll leave it there, and Terry, you can wrap up and take questions.
Brett and Dave, thank you so much. We hope that everyone attending today has enjoyed and gotten something out of the presentations that have been provided. And yeah, exactly, Brett. Let's look at some questions and answers. So there's been a few coming in during the webinar, and you can certainly use this time now to add to that. And we'll just take them as they come in, as they have come in, I should say. So the first question actually has to do with the geography. Does VSI intend to invest in getting new OpenVMS customers in Latin America in the future? Well, the simple answer is yes. The simple answer also is that we've already made some investment in Latin America. We have a couple of partners down there. I say down there because we're located in the greater Boston area in the United States, at least I am. But we have some customers currently in Latin America, and we also have some inquiries from parties down there that we've engaged with, again, because of the changes happening at the end of this year where standard support on version 8.4 ends. They're looking at upgrading to VSI licenses and possibly in a short interim time period, continuing on VSI L1, L2 support for those 8.4 licenses. So the short answer is yes, we are making some investments there, and that's probably also going to be an additional sales resource in the not too distant future. So let's see, let's look at some other questions here. I think that we have, this is a question I think in general about our working with partners, and I think both Dave and Brett have addressed that. Since our beginning back in 2014, we have been working very closely with some key partners, not only from the ISV standpoint, but more importantly for this audience, the professional services standpoint, and we value what they do. As Brett so adequately indicated and amply said, we can't do it all necessarily, especially as we look at different geographies. So we work very closely with our partner network. Let's see. We've got a question from Mohan. We have i6 servers. Which other servers can we migrate to after December 31, 2020? So I think just to be clear, again, and we don't like to speak for other organizations, but according to the HPE roadmap, the sales of i6 servers ends at the end of this year, December 31, 2020. However, the standard support goes on through the end of 2025. So this gives customers time to decide their next plan, decide what they want to do next. Now, this fits in nicely with our x86 product, because with the x86 product on whether it's on bare metal, we have, and it's on our website, we have details about those server models that we are targeting initially, both from HPE and from Dell. And then, of course, for those who want to take their OpenVMS environment to the cloud, we are working with virtualization companies. So there are definitely solutions beyond the i6, but at the same time, a customer can remain on their i6 server for a period to come, certainly. Here's a question from John. Does the application modernization services, including porting, i.e. Alpha to x86? So Brett or Dave, why don't you handle that one?
Yeah, I'll take that one. Thank you, Terry. So look, good question. And to be honest, actually something I meant to mention, so apologies for that. I'm sure many of you have probably been through the VAX to Alpha to Integrity migration sequence. And now again, we're looking at Integrity to x86. The simple answer is yes, we can most definitely help you with that from an application modernization perspective. But what I would like to add to that is that, you know, if you're looking at moving to x86, obviously we really hope you are, then you really need to be looking at that now. You need to be looking at your application inventory, making sure you've got all the bits and pieces that you can build the code, that there are no issues around code missing or third-party product that's no longer supported, or the third party's out of business or something like that. You really need to be taking stock of things now, and we can help you with that. If you have questions, you know, obviously come to us and talk to us, and we'll try and help you through those issues. But most definitely it's something that we can help with, yes.
Thanks, Brett. A question from Jim. We have decades-old mix of COBOL, ACMS, DEC forms, and CDC. The apps are slowly migrating to other platforms, but we're increasingly failing to find suitable expertise to maintain or enhance the existing apps. Can your application maintenance support assist us?
We certainly have those skills, so you know that there's no point in me switching into solution mode or anything like that, but certainly by all means please get in touch and we'll explore what might be possible.
Here's I think it's more of a suggestion, but regarding WebUI, I would recommend giving it to customers for a trial period, 3 to 6 months, and after that they pay for it if they want to keep it. Great way to get introduced.
Yeah, look for sure. Yeah. I mean, you know, Terry, I think we do need to have that discussion and sort out how we're going to do this. But you know, we don't want to put something out there. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, Terry. We don't want to make something available that's some ridiculous cost that you don't want to use. I mean, we want something here that's going to be useful to you and going to help you, our customers, without breaking the bank. So we're certainly exploring all the options there as far as the best way to make that software available. And these sorts of things like having a trial period and so forth are all very much up for discussion. I mean, Terry, have you got any thoughts or comments on that?
No, I think the comment, again, this is a comment from John. I think it's a right-on comment, and we welcome and value this type of input. And he's also suggested a quote-unquote canned demonstration available that they can show to customers, which would also promote the GUI. So, no, excellent suggestions. Here's a question from Olaf. Hi guys, what do I have to pay for a new installation for a small 2-node cluster? I think we need a little more details on that. Probably a good follow-up. We'll make a note there.
Yeah. Look, absolutely no problem. I mean, we've obviously done a lot of these things now, and we can fairly quickly turn around a statement of work or whatever to get the job done. But as you say, Terry, we need possibly just a fraction more information than that. But certainly get in touch and we can help you with that.
Yeah, we can do that. Yep. Let's see. This is from Greg. Is VSI planning eventually on a ARM port for VMS, excuse me.
Do you want me to talk to that one, Terry?
Yeah, would you mind?
No, I don't mind. Once I get on a roll, as you know. No, are we planning to port to ARM? The simple answer at the moment is that we're not necessarily planning to port to ARM, but that doesn't exclude it as a possibility in the future. And I think that the key point I will make there, a couple of things actually I'll say, is firstly, as you probably know, we're looking at updating the compilers so that the compiler backend is based on the LLVM open source compiler suite. I mean, this is an open source compiler backend that's backed by the likes of Facebook, Google, and various other very large organizations. LLVM has works with ARM, it works with x86, it works with a number of other processors, not IA64, unfortunately, but that's another story. So the bottom line is that once we've got the compilers working with LLVM, and obviously we have in a cross-compile sense at the moment to some degree, but once we've got the compilers working with LLVM, there's no reason why we can't generate ARM code just as easily as we can generate x86 code. So hypothetically, yes, we can do a port to ARM, but that doesn't diminish from the amount of work that's going to be involved. I mean, all of these processes have different characteristics, and it would still be an appreciable amount of work. And I don't want to talk out of turn because I'll probably get beaten up by Camille or Greg Jordan or one of the other team, but it would not be a small task, but it would be made appreciably easier by the fact that we're moving to the LLVM compiler suite. The other thing I'd note is that back in September last year, I got on board Chris Brown, who many of you might know from days gone by. Chris was responsible for VMS strategy many years ago, and Chris has been helping us look at our strategy going forward. And what do we do beyond x86? So things like ARM, embedded devices, these sorts of things, these are all discussions we're having. I mean, it's all hypothetical at this stage. We're not saying we're going to do anything or not do anything. They're the sorts of discussions, however, that we are certainly having and exploring.
We have a question from Dominic. This is interesting. In the partnership with Oracle, do you expect Oracle to drive all elements of the customer relationship, or will VSI offer this as part of the, quote, one-stop shop, unquote, approach? Maybe we can both comment, or all of us can comment on that. So as I think most people know, we have a very good relationship with Oracle, both from a business standpoint and also a technical standpoint. Most OpenVMS customers today use Oracle, an Oracle product. But I do think it's dependent upon VSI to drive the mission for OpenVMS and to drive the mission for VSI. In terms of customer relationships. But Brett, maybe you want to, or Dave, maybe you might want to comment on that, or either the business or the technical.
Yeah, I think it would probably depend on the particular situation, to be honest, Terry. I mean, obviously, having worked for a large corporation, namely HP, I know that the large corporations generally prefer to take the prime vendor role, so I can certainly understand that from an Oracle perspective as well. But you've got to look at these things on a case-by-case basis and figure out what's best for the customer, I think.
There's a question from James. Any integration for OpenVMS WebUI with something like SolarWinds?
I honestly haven't thought about it, but honestly, I'm quite interested in, and this is one of the things which actually maybe comes back to John's question as well, Terry, is putting the product out there so customers can look at it and play around with it and actually give us feedback. I mean, this is one of the things I like to do. So, for example, some of you probably know that we recently released the VMS IDE, an extension to Microsoft Visual Code, allows you to do remote development and things like that. And what we've done with that is, we've made that available. It's freely available for download, no problem there. And what we've done is we've looked to evolve the product based on customer feedback. So the bottom line is, I can come up with a lot of ideas, most of them are rubbish, but eventually I kind of run out of steam. And that's where we need to be working with customers and getting customer input and figuring out the best way to drive the evolution of these products. So, as I say, not something I've thought about, but something we can investigate. And absolutely very interested in getting feedback from the user community.
Great, thanks, Brett. Greg has a question. Can you speak to the new hobbyist program that has been much discussed on Facebook? Brett, you've probably, I think we've attended many of the same internal meetings on this. I think you've been a little more diligent recently on this, but yeah, we can probably offer a few comments about this. We've commented, I made a statement earlier that it's due out in the fall. Probably can be pushed up a little bit sooner, we hope, maybe into August. We'll see. You know, the user has to obviously you know, check the box in terms of a EULA and what their intentions are with the use of the what we're calling the community license as opposed to a hobbyist license. There is no VAX license available, but there will be an alpha and integrity and x86 when we get their version. Brett, do you want to add some things to that?
No, look, I think you covered the key points. Okay. Yeah, I think simple as that, really.
Yeah, and we do. I should say so. We are as part of someone's responsibility. They are managing this actually now. So so we are serious about it, and it is coming out, and that's part of someone's specific responsibility.
Indeed.
Here's a question from Richard. Plans for integration with open source tools like Zabbix.
Okay, so Zabbix is an interesting one. I mean, that is actually available today. The French VMS community have created an agent for Zabbix, and we can certainly look to put you in touch with them. So the fact that they've done that is kind of arguably no reason why we should go and reinvent the wheel, so to speak. But you know, other things we've done in the past, for example, similar tools. So we've done things to integrate performance tools with cloud-based services such as Datadog. We're also looking at whether it is worth considering integration with things like Prometheus as well. The other thing I probably should mention, we're going to run out of time, I suspect, Terry, but the other thing I should mention is another product that we're working on, which is will essentially be a portal-based offering that will allow customers to upload T4 files and perform data analyses on those files, essentially within a cloud type of framework. So we are doing a lot of work in that area. But certainly as far as Zabbix, as I say, the French community have created a very good agent for that, and we can put you in touch if necessary.
So the last two webinars we have ran over, Brett, so we'll continue as long as we can because there are still a number of questions here, as long as your schedule and Dave's schedule will allow. Question from Ray: would your software experience encompass in-house written production applications?
Oh, very much so, very much so. Absolutely no question about it. I mean, when it comes to application maintenance and support services, this could be anything. Anything is potentially up for discussion there. I see no problem there at all, Terry.
Yeah, and Ray, you certainly know how to get a hold of us. Thank you for the question. Is there an office in India? At present, we do not. VSI does not have an office in India. Neither does our parent company, TerraCloud Corporation. We don't see that in the immediate future as well. But again, if there's a requirement that you may have, a need, reach out to us and let's figure that out. Again, we do have a vast partner network. Let's see, plans for working with partners like Micro Focus. We've been raising this with, especially on the HPE Data Protector product that is not supported on VSI OpenVMS. I'm not sure I have a good answer for that. Brett or Dave?
No, I mean, I think they are on the partner list, Terry.
Yeah,
but I really couldn't tell you much more than that. I do recall that we assisted them with some work a year or so back, but I couldn't comment on the current status, no.
Yeah, that may be more of a Eddie Orcutt type of question. Yeah, okay. Let's see, can we download a basic kit for x86 for testing hands-on? Let's see. Probably not yet. So where we are with x86, I'll just take a stab at it, and then Brett or Dave, if you want to comment. So we have just released our early adopter kit, version 9.0. And that has cross tools. And as we continue to build components into our version 9.0, that will be rolling out to more primarily ISV partners and other partners, but also a limited number of customers. So that's been the plan all along. What we do ask is that in order to see how well we match up with where we are with our current development with what you're currently using, we're trying to match those two together. And when the time is right, we would notify you and let you know that we think that now we are ready to have you test version 9.0 on our product. So this is kind of a rolling process through the next several months before we get to version 9.0 or 9.1, excuse me, which is probably going to be in Q2 of next year. Let's see, any plans with companies such as Dynatrace? I can't answer that. I don't know of anybody else. Brett or Dave, you can, but I can't answer that. We'll try to get you an answer on that.
Yep.
James. From Duncan, will T4 be ported to x86, or will PERFDAT be the only tool available?
The bottom line is that there are so many customers using T4. It's a much loved product, much loved tool. So most definitely it will be going across to x86. Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's see, comparing with our current cluster of 2 i6 servers, will the x86 based servers be, parentheses, much more powerful, better storage? Currently HP 8450 and more powerful integrity servers have been our greatest driver for improving performance. Thank you. Federico, so this is obviously a very important question to all OpenVMS customers. We probably cannot answer this question today because we're not quite that far along in our development. However, I will tell you, or we will tell you, that we are looking to bring on some additional resources for this specific purpose, to talk about performance, to measure performance, to evaluate performance, and to put together some of the performance characteristics for the x86 product compared to what you're used to seeing from a systems performance standpoint. Brett or Dave, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, there's probably not much more to add, but I think probably the only thing I'd say, Terry, is that, you know, we're probably only now getting to a point where we can start to do some of this performance characterization. You know, we've now got 9.0 up and running. Most of the architectural issues are under control and sorted out, and we've now got the TCP/IP stack working and so forth. So I think it's really only about now that we've entered a point where we could start doing some proper performance characterization. And as you say, we're looking at bringing on some additional resources with specialist skills in that area to help with that work. So I think, you know, we can expect to have some results for people in the not too distant future.
Yeah. Any progress on VMware hosting virtual OpenVMS? Well, I think this is from Tricia. I think, as you may know, we are engaged with VMware. We're part of their TAP program. And I know that Claire Grant and his team are making progress. At the same time, we started a bit later in that relationship than KVM and Oracle VirtualBox. So we don't anticipate that being available on version 9.0, and I don't even think 9.1 at this point. So we are making progress. I'm not sure there's a lot more details that we can add to what Claire mentioned about a month ago on the x86 webinar.
Yep.
Could you delve deeper into VSI Cloud Solutions? This is from Edgar. So Brad or Dave, I think this is probably some of the, maybe a comment necessary on some of the short-term solutions working with emulation companies. For example, our Alpha 8.4-2L2 performance product is an excellent product to go with emulation companies' products because it helps some of the latency effect that goes on there. So that's a good product, and we work with emulation companies for that customer benefit. Again, we see these interim cloud solutions as just that, interim, because we would like to get everyone over to x86. So I'm not sure that's a much deeper delve, but Brett, do you want to, or Dave, comment on any further on that?
I think you're right there in terms of your response around Alpha and the emulation companies and so forth, Terry. But in terms of cloud going forward with x86, this opens up a huge world of potential, and it's quite an active program within VSI. Myself and Chris and various others are exploring the possibilities there as far as hosting VMS on x86 in the likes of Amazon AWS, Google, other cloud environments, and so forth. There are some bits and pieces that we need to do to the operating system in order for that sort of thing to work well, and this is definitely work that is in progress. So yeah, I think I'll leave it at that for now, Terry.
Great.
Yeah, no, I'll dovetail real quick onto that too as well. I mean, that's there are a lot of things that are going to happen in that area, but I can tell you just in our own in-house shop here, we actually had just recently fired up an emulated version of VMS and put it on an AWS cloud and clustered it back here to a node, in our primary data center. So that, as Brett was saying, the options that are going to be available are going to be many more fold. Great.
So we have a shout out for Chris Brown. Brett, you mentioned Chris, so Chris, if you're listening, here's a shout out for you. From Ian. Ian also is making a statement linking the VMS WebUI with the Cockpit Manager would be an interesting idea, as they could complement each other.
Indeed, and that has actually been discussed. I haven't discussed that with Johan Nichols specifically, yep. But it's certainly been discussed in-house as being a very sensible thing to look at, for sure.
Here's another question from Dominic. Are there any plans for integration into any two-factor authentication tool sets, particularly those that themselves integrate with MS-AD?
I think I can't give you a particularly detailed answer on that, but what I will say is it's something more general, I guess, that we do have an active program of work around FIPS compliance, which is obviously of considerable importance primarily to many of our American customers. And two-factor authentication obviously is not directly, but it is essentially a component of that. Bringing those bits of the operating system up to spec and in line with other platforms as far as two-factor authentication and related such things are concerned.
Okay, here's another statement with a question. Hi, some frustration. When, if at all, Windows Server systems will be stable as VMS systems? Question, don't answer.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Is Hyper-V on the map?
Yes.
Yes, it's on the map. We're not there yet, though. I don't think we've actually engaged yet with them, or if we have, it's just in the very early stages. From Gerard, how do VSI help development on open source? Doing the standard methods, publication and access to sources, links with the mainstream community, multiple collaboration, ? Want to comment?
Yeah, there's kind of an ongoing discussion, Gerard, that obviously you and I and others have had. We're obviously doing a lot of work in the open source space, and it makes sense to share that with the community. But what we've got to do is we've got to make sure that we can do this in a structured fashion. At one extreme, we can just give you a zip file containing all the code and leave it to you to figure out how to build it. And that's not really much use because it's not providing any real feedback as such. Ultimately, what we need to try and do is get into a position where all of this code is living somewhere like Bitbucket or GitHub, and the community can contribute. But that needs to be done in an appropriately managed fashion. And what I mean by that is, getting the structures in place so that we can handle the pull requests and work better with the community. And I kind of don't think that we're in the best position to do that at the moment. The teams are very busy doing other things, and we could potentially waste half of the team's day answering questions, dealing with pull requests and things like that. But don't get me wrong, it's definitely something that we want to do, and it's something that we're working towards doing. And the other thing, while we're on the discussion about open source, we're going way off topic, I guess, from application services, but the whole thing around open source, we've obviously got a lot of work going on within the organization to make it easier in general for customers and indeed for ourselves to port open source software to OpenVMS. So part of this is a large program of work around the C runtime library, for example, C99 compliance, adding additional functions and so forth to the C runtime library, dealing with the issues, some of which are quite long-standing within the C runtime library, things like that. We're also looking at doing, well, not looking, we are actively doing a lot more work with GNV and so forth, which can make it a lot easier in many instances to move code across to a VMS environment and things like that. So there's an awful lot going on, and as I say, I think that kind of makes it a little bit hard for us to set up the ideal infrastructure at the moment to work with the community. But I think certainly going forward and on x86, we really do need to get into a position to do that.
At some point, will OpenVMS drivers support ALUA for peer persistence, for example?
I don't think we've really even thought about it, to be honest, Terry. I mean, that could be one for the driver team, I suspect.
Is TLViz going to update sometime soon?
So probably not. We're aware of some fairly serious issues with TLViz under Windows 10, for example. What we're probably looking at doing more going forward, to be honest, rather than upgrading TLViz, is the portal environment that I mentioned, where you'll be able to upload your CSV files, your T4 CSV files, and essentially do analysis online. So this will provide a couple of things. It will provide a browser-based user interface, which will allow you to do the sorts of functions you're used to with TLViz. But also behind the scenes there is actually an incredibly powerful time series database, which supports a whole myriad of mathematical operations and so forth. So if you need to do any really in-depth analysis, if you want to do Fourier transforms of your data and things like that, you will actually be able to do all of this stuff. But we're not really looking at investing too much time in updating TLViz, to be honest.
Yeah, question from Richard. Do you have any update on Ada compilers with VSI? Yeah, that's a groaner.
Do you want to take that one, Terry? Yeah.
No. Oh.
Yeah. The simple answer, I guess, is no.
Yeah. I think that's I think that's it. Any progress with InterSystems to support cache on version on VSI VMS 8.4-201 and going forward? So this is from Greg. This is also a bit of an interesting area. We have met with InterSystems going back to last October, and we have had dialogue with them, especially towards the end of last year and early this year. The fundamental agreement that was made that InterSystems would look at customer situations on a case-by-case basis for possibly, I'm not going to commit anything for another company, but to possibly consider supporting 8.4-201 in a partnership manner with VSI and InterSystems together. Going forward, however, with their new, I believe it's their Iris product, it seems quite doubtful that they would be looking to support OpenVMS going forward on their newer Iris product, and that's the latest on that. So, but again, from a 8.4-201 standpoint, we have encouraged mutual customers of the two companies to approach InterSystems again on this topic and see where things land. Okay. Well, I think we've pretty much come, there's a few more questions, but I think we have pretty much come time to the end of the webinar because we will be cut off soon. So let's leave it on a high note. Chris Brown must have been listening. So Ian, to your comment, he says he heard that and he thanks you. So that's great. We would like to thank everyone who's participated, and I truly mean participated. I will tell you that even though we have run over, about 85% of the attendees from today's webinar are still on. So we're grateful. We're thankful that you're here and supporting VSI. And please look forward to future webinars. I think this is the 10th or 11th one we've done. We are going to continue them and more frequently, and hopefully on the topics that you want to hear. So please provide us input on that. You can go to, specifically for professional services, go to pro@vmssoftware.com. Of course, for general information, you can go to info, I-N-F-O, at vmssoftware.com, or specific sales questions, sales@vmssoftware.com. So again, we want to thank everyone who's participated today, and have a great rest of your day. And as they say in this COVID-19 world that we live, stay safe, and we look to talk to you soon. So thanks again.
Okay.
Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.